Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Several US cities are braced for protests after Los Angeles spent the night under curfew following an unrest over anti-immigration arrests. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, says he will deploy the National Guard this week ahead of planned protests. Talks between the United States and Russia aimed at improving bilateral relations will take place in Moscow, according to Russia's new ambassador to Washington. Speaking with state news agency TASS, Ambassador Darchayev says rapprochement is being slowed by the US deep state and anti-Russia hawks in Congress. Meanwhile, deadly Russian strikes have been reported in Ukraine, with 3 killed in Kharkiv and dozens other injured, according to local officials. Meanwhile, strikes have also reportedly targeted the Odessa region, leading to damaged homes, cars and boats, according to emergency services. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has condemned UK-led sanctions on Israeli ministers, saying the United States stands shoulder to shoulder with Israel. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu will reportedly meet with his cabinet to discuss hostage talks on Thursday. Elon Musk says that he regrets some of the posts he made about US President Donald Trump, stating they went too far. Trump and Musk's partnership broke down after a public spat, starting with criticism over the president's big, beautiful bill. After 2 days of talks, the United States and China have reached a deal to ease export curbs and keep the tariff truce alive. Intense negotiations in London between Chinese and American diplomats has led to a framework that follows talks in Geneva last month. Thousands of mourners have gathered in silence for a candlelit vigil after 10 people were killed in a horrific school shooting in the Austrian city of Graz. The gunman, a 21-year-old former student, took his own life inside the building. Taiwan's defense minister says China's simultaneous aircraft carrier operations send a clear expansionist message. Meanwhile, Japan warns that Beijing is honing long-range naval power as Taiwan prepares for new F-16 deliveries. We start this hour in North America, and the United States is seeing a wave of unrest as protests against immigration raids spread coast to coast. Los Angeles remains the flashpoint, where Mayor Karen Bass has declared a local emergency and imposed a curfew after dozens of businesses were looted. Police say mass arrests are underway after demonstrators defied curfews in downtown streets. Similar scenes are playing out nationwide, from New York to Chicago to San Francisco, with tensions escalating between protesters and law enforcement. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has deployed the National Guard to multiple cities, warning that property damage and violence will be met with a strong response. Authorities fear the unrest could intensify as more protests are planned across the country. We move to Europe now, and Russia has launched a drone attack on Ukraine's Odessa region, damaging private dwellings, cars and boats, according to Ukraine's emergency services. This comes after Russian strikes on Ukraine's northeastern city of Kharkiv reportedly killed 3 people and wounded 64 others, including 9 children, according to the state's emergency service. The Ukrainian military says Russia had launched 85 drones overnight, 40 of which were shot down. The military has stated that the main areas of the airstrike were Kharkiv, Donetsk and the Odessa regions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the strikes on his social media account on X and called for increased international pressure on Russia. Meanwhile, Russian state media has reported that the Ukrainian military attacked Russia's borderline Belgorod region with over 40 unmanned aerial vehicles and 76 various munitions in the past 24 hours. That's according to Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov. This comes as Russia's foreign ministry warned that the lack of response from the United States and Britain to recent Ukrainian attacks could escalate tensions between the nuclear powers. This comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said yesterday that the United States will reduce funding allocated for military assistance to Ukraine in its upcoming defense budget. Well, joining us to discuss these developments and the potential ramifications is Yulia Kazdabina, a senior fellow at the Ukrainian Prism, joining us from Kyiv. Yulia, as always, thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak with us. Let's first look at these strikes that have taken place earlier this morning. Of course, several areas hit: Kharkiv, the Donetsk region, and also Odessa. Further strikes reported on Russia. Given the work that has been made towards peace, how detrimental are these continuing drone attacks, which we've seen reportedly kill further people?
Well, these are today's attack was actually smaller than the attacks that took place the day before and the day before, right? So at that time, those days we had almost 500 Russian drones and missiles attacking Ukrainian cities, including Kiev. And Kiev actually had a dreadful night yesterday with 7 out of 10 Kiev districts suffering as a result of the Russian attack. And Russia actually attacking civilian targets. But I think that when people talk about peacemaking efforts, it's very important to understand that there are no peacemaking efforts on the part of Russia. Russia continues being an aggressor. And when people talk about Ukrainian strikes on the Russian territory, if you follow the geography of Ukrainian strikes, Ukraine strikes Russian military facilities, Russian military production facilities, and Ukraine's strategy in this war now is to undermine Russia's ability to continue conducting the war against Ukraine. And what Russia does, it attacks civilian targets. So Kharkiv today, it was a massive drone attack hitting primarily residential buildings. And the number of casualties very often is a result of Russia using shrapnel in its Shahed drones to make sure that it can strike as many people as possible, or as many, cause as much damage as possible. So, when Ukraine came and said, let's have a 30-day ceasefire on land, on sea, in the air, and then let's sit down and talk about a peace deal, Russia said no, we want, and they made these ultimatum demands and said that we're going to continue attacking you until you accept our demands. So this is not about making peace. And I know that those people who try to comment on the situation from the point of view of peace process, peacemaking, they look at the recent prisoners exchanges that took place, and they believe that this is a sign of hope, that some sort of a confidence building is happening between Russia and Ukraine. But this is not the case. It's very important for Ukraine to return its prisoners from Russia, because people are being tortured in Russia, and there are cases of people dying in Russian captivity because they are not fed properly, because they are beaten up to death. It's important for us to return our prisoners of war, but we also understand very well that Russia continues the aggression, and that Russia has large Ukrainian territories under its control, and so it's very easy for it to get more prisoners and to exchange. And so this, to us, this does not signify anything. And also, given the way they conduct those exchanges, when they also try to dictate their conditions in the course of the exchanges, we understand that this is not about peace. And so we are forced to continue defending ourselves by degrading Russia's ability to wage aggression against us.
Yes, Yulia, I want to look at these comments from Russia's foreign ministry, talking about a lack of comment and response from the United Kingdom and the United States over Ukrainian attacks on Russia. What do you think about this comment, given that you've just said that the Ukrainian strikes on Russia are military targets and the other way round, in your opinion, is civilian? Do you think this is Russia trying to push a narrative in this war?
Yes, absolutely. And they've been trying to do it from the very beginning. If you remember, from the very start, the war was based on the false premise that Ukraine somehow was posing a threat to Russia, and which was absolutely not the case, because even given the size of Russian military and given the size of the Ukrainian military, And now when we move to this phase when President Trump says that he wants to end the war, and the kind of usual Western approach to ending the war is negotiations and both sides making concessions and things like that. So Russia presents these prisoner exchanges as concessions on its part, and it demands. So basically, Russia's goal in this case is to shift the blame on Ukraine and say that Ukraine is the reason why the peace talks are not progressing.
Yes, Yulia, and very briefly before we bring an end to this discussion, of course, Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary of the United States, talking about the next defence budget, which will see lower support for Ukraine militarily. How significant is this, or is this expected from Ukraine, and who will be able to step up if this war continues past this year into next?
Well, we had no expectations that the U.S. was going to continue supporting Ukraine. We were ready for that. Of course, for us, this diminishes our ability to continue defending, but at the same time, we see that European Union and European countries are stepping up their defense production. They're developing their defense industrial base because they understand, and we hear more and more from, for example, German side yesterday that they have evidence that Russia is preparing to attack a NATO country, and we see increased Russia's aggressiveness in the Baltic Sea. So we're hoping that when the US plays a smaller role in European security, which they clearly state they're going to do, that Europe will embrace Ukraine as a partner in countering Russian aggression, and we will keep receiving support because
Yulia.
this is a part of European security.
Yes, Yulia, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing that insight. We will, of course, be across all the developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. But we now bring you some breaking news from Africa, and an attack in central Nigeria has killed at least 20 people as per reports. This is what we know so far, but we'll continue to bring you more updates on this development. Limited information coming out of Nigeria, but reports say that at least 20 people have been killed in attacks in this region of the African country. More information is expected to come through soon, and we will be able to bring you that as we have it. We head back to Europe, and Finland's foreign ministry has summoned Russia's top diplomats following a suspected breach of Finnish airspace on June the 10th near the coastal town of Porvoo. This marks the second time in under 3 weeks that a Russian military aircraft is believed to have entered Finnish airspace. Finland, a NATO member, says the border guard is currently investigating. Officials say Russia's acting head of mission has been invited to Helsinki today to address the incident. While bringing you some more breaking news from Europe, Russian mechanized infantry units have reached the western border of the Donetsk region, and together with a tank division are advancing in the Dnipropetrovsk region in Ukraine. Reports suggesting that the Russian offensive has moved forward and has advanced into the Dnipropetrovsk region. We, of course, will bring you more on this and the ongoing war, as mentioned earlier. But we now head to the Middle East. Sharp diplomatic divides are deepening as Australia defends sanctions on Israeli ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, calling their rhetoric expansionist and in violation of international law. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said peace is only possible through a two-state solution, with Israel held accountable. But US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now slamming Canberra's move, calling it a cowardly attempt to appease the global left. Rubio warned the sanctions undermine Israel's democracy and encourage extremists. The row comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu prepares for new hostage talks, and a UN report accuses Israel of extermination in Gaza, labelling it a crime against humanity. Meanwhile, Gaza Civil Defense Agency has said that Israeli forces opened fire on people waiting to enter a US-backed food distribution centre. This has led to the death of 31 people, according to reports. Bringing you some more breaking news now. A fire has broken out at a petrochemical complex in southern Iran, killing at least 3 people and injuring 10 others. This according to state media. The reports say that a fire has broken out at a methanol storage tank in the Kava petrochemical complex. Authorities say that a number of those killed and hurt and may rise due to the scale of the incident. This all according to local media. Any more information on this that we get will come straight to you. Moving on now, and in his latest statements on US-China trade relations, Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng emphasised sincerity and principles in trade discussions. He urged for stable ties, continuous communication, stronger cooperation and safeguarding the progress made in dialogues. He also reaffirmed China's clear position and readiness to protect its interests if required. Meanwhile, JL Mag Rare Earth, a Chinese producer of rare earth magnets, has received export licenses from Chinese authorities, allowing it to resume shipments to the United States, Europe and Southeast Asia. The company applied for these licenses after China imposed stricter export rules in April. According to a statement on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange's investor platform, the license approvals are being issued gradually. This development comes as officials from both countries, that being China and the United States, have reached a framework agreement aimed at easing export restrictions and stabilising economic relations. The framework was announced following 2 days of negotiations in London. US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said the deal builds on an earlier understanding reached in Geneva last month, which had struggled to gain traction due to ongoing Chinese limits on critical mineral exports, a policy that prompted US retaliation with restrictions on sensitive technology exports to China. We head back over to North America, and tech mogul Elon Musk has said that he regrets some of his posts against US President Donald Trump. This comes days after the massive public fallout between both the world's richest man and the President of the United States. Musk admitted that some of his remarks against Trump went too far. Last week, Musk and Trump engaged in a public feud on social media after the Tesla CEO left his role in the government and criticised Trump's contentious tax bill called the Big Beautiful Bill. Musk had termed Trump's tax bill as a disgusting abomination. Elon Musk said that this bill would add to the US budget deficit and saddle Americans with crushing debt. In response, Trump had stated that he was very disappointed in Elon, claiming that Musk was fully aware of the details of the bill and had no objections until he left his government role. Musk denied this claim and called Trump's claims false. The feud further escalated when Musk said that Trump's name had featured in the Epstein files. Musk has since deleted this post against Trump. Well, joining us to discuss this latest development and potential relations moving forward is Peter Baum, a foreign editor at the Weekly Blitz, who is joining us from London. Peter, we've heard Elon Musk on social media and now saying that he went too far with his comments. Do you think this is a potential mending of relations, or is this just Elon Musk backtracking against some of the inflammatory comments that he made?
I think it's a bit of both, Joshua. I've literally, before joining you, was on a debate on US radio talking about exactly this. Now, when Musk first made these comments a week or so ago, the Trump opposition were absolutely delighted, as you can imagine, recognizing this huge argument and differences between Trump and Elon Musk. Christmas must have come early to the anti-Trump brigade, and they made much of it. Since Musk has rode back on his comments yesterday, we don't know whether this was a behind-the-scenes discussion going on between Elon Musk and his advisors and Donald Trump and his cabinet, or whether Elon Musk did this unilaterally. irrespective of that, it does seem that some kind of rapprochement is being made. The financial markets have taken it very well, and it's clear that both Musk and Trump would be better off united for both their personal agendas than they are separated. So I think we will continue in the days ahead to see a continuation of this rapprochement, and I think the anti-Trump brigade and the Democrats will be livid at this, because they were really hoping that this break between these two egomaniacs was going to hurt the Republican Party and the Trump administration. It now seems that their hopes may have been dashed.
Yes, we know that Donald Trump on Sunday said that the relationship was done and that it wouldn't improve, but we're used now to the Trump administration making comments and sometimes stepping back on those. Given the work that Musk did with his Department of Government Efficiency, do you think that an advisory role is something that he will be able to continue, given the level of allegations that he put forward, including Trump's association with Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, now, great question, Joshua. As we know, that Donald Trump is not a forgiving person. But in this case, when it comes to someone like Elon Musk, I think he will be as flexible as he can be. The allegations that Musk made about the Epstein to Trump could have been very, very damaging, beyond repair, I would say. Since he's deleted the allegations from his Twitter account, there is room for manoeuvre here, although it's yet to be seen whether Donald Trump will be truly forgiving. I think there will be a way forward for both of them to work together. The relationship cannot be as good as it was because of what's happened, but I think both of them recognise that they're better off being friendly and non-combative than they are being in direct opposition to each other. So for that political reason alone, for that human reason, I should say alone, I believe that there will be a way forward for Elon to come back into the fold, but possibly in not as dynamic or influential position as he was when Donald Trump first got elected president.
Yes, and Peter, to bring an end to our discussion, we know that Trump's supporters are loyal, and we know he won the popular vote as well as the House, the Senate, and of course the presidency in the most recent election. Given the chaos that is going on currently in America around immigration and other policies, how damaging is this specific spat with the world's richest man to Trump's image and reputation heading further closer to midterm elections?
You know what, Joshua, I truly believe the spat with Musk, providing it can be damaged, limited, won't have an impact on the midterm elections. And I also believe that Trump supporters are actually backing him for the stance he's taking in the sanctuary city-states, as we see in Los Angeles, which may spread to other cities as well. I actually believe that was he was elected for, and I think his supporters will back him to the hilt.
Peter Baum, as always, thank you ever so much for joining us on NewsX World. We will continue to bring you all the developments in that breakdown in relations between Elon Musk and US President Donald Trump. But we head back to Europe to bring you some more breaking news, and the Kremlin has acknowledged ongoing discussions between Russia and the US to normalise relations, but emphasises that quick results are unlikely, citing the damage inflicted on bilateral ties. This comes amid talks that are happening at various levels, including diplomatic and intelligence channels. These diplomatic talks, bilateral talks, come, of course, after rhetoric from the US administration and positive talks between US envoy Steve Witkoff and Russian President Vladimir Putin. We will keep you updated on all of those as we get them. But we head now to the Indo-Pacific, and 2 Chinese aircraft carriers have been spotted operating simultaneously in the Pacific Ocean, marking a significant display of China's expanding naval capabilities. Taiwan's Defence Minister Wellington Koo described the movements as a clear political message reflecting Beijing's expansionist ambitions. The carriers reportedly crossed from the first island chain spanning Japan to Taiwan and the Philippines into the second island chain, which extends further into the Pacific, including US territories such as Guam. Japan's defence minister said China's carriers show intent to expand military reach. China calls the operations routine training with no specific targets. Meanwhile, Taiwan is modernising its defence with new F-16 jets from the US to counter threats. Meanwhile, China has sharply rebuked NATO after Secretary General Mark Rutte raised concerns about Beijing's growing military power. In a statement today, the Chinese embassy in the UK said NATO was smearing and scapegoating China and urged the alliance to correct its misinterpretation and stop spreading security anxiety. The response follows Rutte's remarks at a Chatham House event in London, where he said China, alongside Russia, North Korea and Iran, are modernising and expanding their military at breakneck speed. The embassy said NATO is using China as an excuse to justify its own military expansion and accused the alliance of disrupting global and regional security. Moving on now, Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar gave an exclusive interview to Euractiv during his visit to Brussels this week, where he met European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and EU Foreign Affairs Chief Kaja Kallas. The EU is midway through free trade negotiations with India, which is looking to diversify partnerships amid closer Russia-China ties. The minister's visit came after a deadly terror attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir. Jaishankar warned that this is not just an India-Pakistan issue, but a global terrorism threat, pointing to Osama bin Laden's safe haven in Pakistani military town as proof. When questioned about India's neutrality in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Minister Jaishankar said India also maintains strong ties with Ukraine. He noted that every country views international issues through the lens of its own history and interests. Jaishankar also emphasised that India faced border violations soon after independence, with limited support from Western countries, which now advocates for international principles. Jaishankar highlighted the EU as a major independent global actor, underlining the importance for India to deepen its partnership with Europe in today's multipolar world. When asked about India's trust in President Donald Trump, Jaishankar steered clear of personality-based responses. He said India is focused on advancing relationships that serve its interests. Finally, regarding India's complex relationship with China, Jaishankar highlighted that European companies are investing in India to de-risk their supply chains. We head back to Europe now, and Austrian police have recovered a non-functional homemade bomb from the home of a 21-year-old who killed 10 people in a mass shooting at his former school in Graz, Austria's second largest city. Authorities said the suspect, armed with a shotgun and a pistol, opened fire across multiple floors of the secondary school before taking his own life in a bathroom. Investigators are now combing through his online activity and personal effects, searching for clues to his motive. While some Austrian media reports he may have felt bullied, police have not confirmed this. Here is what Gerald Ortner, Strain Police Chief, and Gerhard Kahner, Federal Minister of the Interior, have had to say.
Beim mutmaßlichen Täter handelt es sich um einen 21-jährigen Österreicher aus dem Bezirk Graz-Umgebung. Nach derzeitigem Kenntnisstand wurden bei der Tat 2 Schusswaffen verwendet, die am Tatort sichergestellt werden konnten. Diese Waffen werden nun kriminaltechnisch untersucht. Der mutmaßliche Täter dürfte die Waffen legal besessen haben.
Es ist bekannt und auch zu berichten, dass er Schüler dieser Schule auch war, diese Schule nicht abgeschlossen hat. Alles andere, und es sind viele Dinge zum jetzigen Zeitpunkt spekuliert worden, ist eben Spekulation. Und das ist Aufgabe jetzt des Landeskriminalamtes, unter Federführung des Landeskriminalamtes.
Well, religious studies teacher Paul Nitsche recalled seeing the suspect trying to shoot a lock off a door before fleeing. I thought this can't be real, he told ORF. Here is what one of the students had to say about the incident. Well, the attack, one of the deadliest in Austria's modern history, has prompted renewed calls for tighter gun laws. Graz's mayor urged immediate reforms, and RUF acknowledged the need to address any legal loopholes. In response to the tragedy, the country has declared 3 days of national mourning. Thousands gathered in Graz's central square on Tuesday evening to honour the victims. Moving on now, a record number of people have been forced to flee their homes in Haiti as gang violence spirals out of control. This according to a new United Nations report. Nearly 1.3 million Haitians are now internally displaced, the highest ever recorded in the country's history. The UN's migration agency says many have been forced to flee multiple times with nothing but the clothes on their back. Port-au-Prince remains the epicentre of the violence, but attacks are now spreading to regions like Artibonite and Center, where tens of thousands more are seeking shelter in precarious conditions. Well, that's all we have time for. We'll continue to bring you more of the latest breaking news from across the world.